All right, this is my second try this morning. Love those technical difficulties, and my apologies for anyone that was trying to join and missed out because we had microphone issues. No idea what happened, but I had to go get the tech boss up there to come down and fix the microphone. So apologies for getting started late. Welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan. I'm the founder and creator of Mindful Patterns. We are a company, I swear we're owned by crazy cats right now who are in such like spring fever mode. And Mindful Patterns is a company all about mindfulness-based art and self-discovery. And I love using art as a creative process for personal growth. And during the 100-day project this year, I am working on writing and illustrating my fourth book, and it's been a little tricky, and it's coming along. It's like feeling like it's finally starting to gel, but it's definitely taken a hot minute to figure out where I am and what is going on. And I'm super excited about today's topic, which is all about rebooting our relationships and all about exploring our relationships using intuitive collage. And I'm going to do that in a couple of different ways. And actually over the next 3 sessions, so not including Monday, our Make Monday Morning Sacred, I'm going to be talking about using intuitive collage. So this is part 1 of 3 about using intuitive collage to explore our relationship with self. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, hi, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. So sorry for being late and all the sound craziness. My apologies. So one of the sections of the book, and also one of the sections, hi again, Yvonne, and also one of the sections of the Creative Renaissance program, which is my year-long group coaching program, is called Reboot Your Relationships. And when I think about relationships, I have in my head always, when I think about relationships, when I think about connection as being one of my highest core values, I think about my relationship to self. I think about the relational we, my interconnectedness with others. And I also think about universal relationships, my relationship to humanity, to nature, to my definition of the divine source, to oneness with all. These are just suggested words here for these different aspects of relationship. And I've been feeling really pulled to do some more intuitive collage. I'm working on a brand new course right now called Soul Journeys, which is going to be an exploration of our creative superpower archetypes and intuitive collage, and I'm very excited about that. But it made me think about, as I'm working on my 100-day project and working through my book, one of the primary creative tools that I love to use with people is intuitive collage. And so I thought I would demonstrate what I mean by intuitive collage today. Jackie, good morning, good evening. Thanks for popping back on after our epic microphone fail this morning. And today I want to use intuitive collage to explore my relationship with myself. Now, even within my relationship to myself, there's a lot of different aspects to consider. There's the shadow side, those stories, those limiting beliefs. I love how Sina Frost, the originator of the soul collage process, I'm a certified soul collage facilitator, talks about shadow as simply an exaggeration or too much of a quality or characteristic of ourselves. Our inner critic might fall into the shadow. Our inner judge, our wounded child might show up as a shadow image. My connection to spirit and seeing myself as a spiritual being is a different image. Yay, yay. Thank you, Lisa. My connection to my mind and how I think about myself intellectually is a different aspect of self. And so is my relationship to my body. And I almost want to put heart on here after, on our last session on Tuesday, we also talked about heart. We talked about the head heart gut relationship and using our own intuition to tap into inner knowing. Well, we're going to do that in a similar way today, but we're going to do it through intuitive collage. So here's the thing, that I don't practice soul collage as much because I am also a Journey Circles facilitator. I love certifications, can you tell? And I fell in love with working in the round. But there's some of the elements of soul collage that have really stuck with me when it comes to doing other types of intuitive collage work. And one of those is to only have one energy on a collage. So you might sit down and think about, I'm going to create an intuitive collage exploring my whole relationship to self. And you would have elements of all of these on here, right? Elements of all of these on one card. And we don't want to do that. Each of these is going to be a different card. So today I'm going to create intuitively, and some of them might be shadow, some of them might be spirit. I don't need to know. But intuitively, we know if an image is a shadow story, a limiting belief, a wounded aspect of ourself, or if it is related to our mind or our heart or our body or our confidence, right? So I want to play with this idea with some different collages today. I have a small pile of images that I prepped last night. I had a bunch of magazines to go through, and so one of the ways I like to work on this is you can work one collage at a time, but you can also work on multiple collages at a time. So I'm just kind of thinking that, maybe I want a spirit card, maybe a shadow card, and maybe a body card, or some of those things that are sort of coming to me this morning. And I can start to just flip through some of these images and see what appeals to me. I really loved this picture of this woman. I think she's an artist and designer, and she's in some famous old hotel. This was some old Good Housekeeping magazine, but she just kind of oozes confidence. There was something about the seagulls, I don't know, kind of reminded me. Remember the old book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull? I may be aging myself. I cut out a lot of images of hands as well, right? And I'm not sure what the hands are about. Something about the colors of this one feel a little bit shadowy, right? The bird here is flying away and there's a lone seagull, feels a little shadow. I loved one of these two images, and maybe I'm feeling into the cat energy this morning because it feels like strength. It felt like energy and inspiration. And it was a silly ad for pet food that was supposed to be good for cats' guts or something, animals, for their digestion, I think. So loving, and look at the intuitively picking red and red here to think about this sense of body, right? Loved these two little girls here in this little magic fairy garden coming out of this door, but I also just love this little girl. And so I'm just going to start collecting images. So what happens when people start creating intuitive collage is they get caught up in the art part of trying to make something pretty and perfect and ideal. And I'm a big fan of quickfire creative, where really we are... Oh, this is an interesting shadow card for me. I'll talk more about that. This one was so fun, where we get caught up in making it pretty rather than letting the images speak to us. To remember that these kinds of intuitive processes are not about making art, but about creating meaning. And yes, sometimes they turn out, beautiful and inspiring. And sometimes this one's feeling like a lot of spring, inner child, sense of wonder, energy. And when we get caught up in making them perfect, we lose that connection with our own intuitive knowing. Being drawn to this little dove here. And so I often get asked about where do I find my images? How do I collect images? Sorry, it's going to be pretty glary on these magazine images. Kind of love this. Maybe one or two of these little hot air balloons here. Again, I'm intuitively grabbing and cutting images, and then as I look back, I'm like, oh, look, the color palette starts to emerge. It's not intentional. I'm not planning it. I like all of these images. And I don't need to know what they mean as I go along. I'm not looking for anything specific. I have ideas of the cards that I'm creating, but the cards are going to tell their own story. All right. Something about this one feels a little shadowy here, like this, reflection of this duality of the self. I think I have enough to get started because, these circles aren't huge, and I'm feeling very drawn to this sweet card here. Which was the space that I designated for my connection to spirit. So clearly that connection to spirit is very youthful and childlike. And when you're creating intuitive collage, you can tear your images, you can definitely cut your images. But you always want to take the primary image that you're drawn to and cut it away from its original background and put it onto a new background. We do this in order to create new meaning that is unique to us and to the story that's unfolding as we're creating our collage. You never need to cover up the entire surface of what you're creating. Now, because I love this process so much, I have a tendency to want to cover everything, and that is not always the most useful thing. And somewhere in here, I have some beautiful images of Texas bluebonnets. One of the things I miss about living in Texas are the fields and fields of bluebonnets. And I found some in a magazine, and I know I cut them out yesterday. There they are. Oh, these are kind of pretty too, but not quite the right color. All right, so I'm thinking I want these bluebonnets to be on the background. And there's a quick way to get images down without having to cut everything out first. The other thing that I tend not to do is to worry too much about keeping things in the edge of whatever I'm creating. So I love to create in the round. It's why that one's empty. Why I love journey circles work so much is, as you know, I love mandalas for their symbolism, but also because every circle represents both the individual parts and the whole. So when we create in the round, there's this opportunity for spiraling into our stories. This is called a spiral path card. I'm pausing to cut this one just so I can see the edges of the circle, but if I were doing this quickly, I wouldn't worry too much about that. And I think I might need my beautiful oak tree on there. I also miss the oak trees of my childhood. Those might be mesquite trees, but for me right now, they're going to represent oak trees. So again, there's something about connecting to nature, connecting to childhood, the awe and magic of a field of flowers like this one. And I'm just going to let that tree hang right over the edge of that image. Maybe we'll let these balloons hang over the edge of the image. So clearly this is starting to emerge as a story of spring and blooming. And every collage that you create tells a different story. And it takes some time to learn how to interpret the stories and understand what kind of questions to ask on our journey. And we'll get to those questions in a little bit. And I think I started to say, and then I got distracted. So people often ask, where do I find images? So where do I find magazines? Because it can be harder to find magazines. And I prefer using printed images than creating digitally, but you can definitely do this process digitally, but it can be harder to connect with your intuitive knowing when you're working only digitally, because then you start to get really intentional about the images and you forget about connecting to your intuition, and you start to try to figure it out. Oh, what would go here or what would go there? And so you can find magazines often at libraries, at thrift stores, ask friends. I found a whole bunch of old Good Housekeeping magazines and some fun Cowboy and Indians magazines. I know I live in Colorado. In little libraries, people will put their magazines to be recycled. And so I collect them wherever I go. Hi Teddy, good afternoon. I also, so Teddy just went through Soul Collage facilitation too. So we're talking a lot this morning, Teddy, about intuitive collage. And I ask friends, I pick them up. You know, when you go to the grocery store, they often have free magazines. When you go visit a new town, they have free travel magazines. We have this beautiful art magazine from Fort Collins that I pick up whenever I can, because not only is it fun to read about the artist in our area, but it also has really, really beautiful art in it. All right, so this spirit card is coming together, and I love, love, love that look on her face. Look at that awe and wonder and delight. And when I think about connecting to spirit, I get that same sense of awe and wonder. And once every few months, I will grab a stack of magazines, new or old. One time I got a whole bunch of National Geographics, which are amazing for intuitive collage, on Craigslist. I did a search and got them on, it's kind of blurry, sorry, it's better. A lady had a garage full of them that someone had gifted her son a subscription for several decades. And she's like, what are you going to do with them? And when I told her, she gifted me a huge box of them, which was really juicy. And here recently, I found a bunch of old ones at a thrift store, recycling centers. All right, love that dove of peace there. And I will sit and rip images out separate from my creative time. And I think this is an important element of intuitive collage is you can get so caught up starting to look through magazines and read the articles, and it pops you right out of the creative. And so I want to encourage you to spend some time gathering images first. That counts as creative work when you sit and just have some fun. I use a pair of scissors, I use a ruler, and I pull the images out and I spend some time doing a little bit of the fussy cutting ahead of time, so that when it comes to sit down and make collage, I have this stack of prepared images ready to go. And it allows me to be really in the moment and in the process. You can use your own photographs. You can use free sites like Unsplash and spend an hour just, searching for nature or animals and start to create a curated collection of images that speak to you. And what I love about intuitive collage is you really can't get it wrong. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but there are some ways that help us to access our unconscious knowing. And one of those things is cutting images away from their backgrounds. And the second thing is having dialogue with the images, right? So this is a card that I'm pretty sure is going to sit on my desk or on my altar for a while because this feels so alive and delightful today. I'm really appreciating this energetic sense of spirit here that has emerged in this card. And so remember, or if you're just joined us, welcome. We are talking about using intuitive collage to explore our relationship to ourselves today. And one aspect of self is my own sense of self as a spiritual being. So that's a beautiful card that represents that for me. And to go forward from here, I would sit with this card, and I have two ways to approach dialoguing with cards, especially if you're new to this. You can use the soul collage phrase, I am one who, and I would allow this little girl to speak and to tell her story. I am one who is delighted and in awe of the world around me. I am one who is delighted to emerge out of the darkness and into the light and beauty of spring. I am one who is at peace with myself and the world. Another way to do this is to create she stories. And a she story looks something like, she emerged from the darkness into the light of spring, her eyes opening in wonder at the abundant color, the abundant blooms, at the beautiful visit from this dove of peace, and her heart was full. That might be a really simple expression of a she story. And sometimes it feels a little more comfortable when you're beginning to access the she story than it does to start with the I stories. So intuitive collage is powerful and potent. And the collage making, the card making, the circle making is so much fun. It can get really easy to just make all these tons and tons of collages. But the magic happens first when we dialogue with the cards, and second, when we have a collection of cards, we can start to create our own journey maps, our own stories. So how is this related to my 100-day project in the book? Well, one of the things that we'll be doing is creating our own map and our story, and sort of mapping the journey through collage is one way to approach the creative process. Oh my gosh, is she making anyone else happy? Like, she's making me so happy. What a delightful image this morning to emerge, right? And I didn't sit down with any intention about I need this or I need that, but my heart is feeling really open and expansive right now. So another aspect of relationship to myself might be relationship my to my body, right? Or to my mind or to my heart. And there's something about this wreath image that's really drawing me in. So I'm going to start with this and build up from that. There's something about, again, it feels like this overflow of abundance. And sometimes when we're working with journey circles and intuitive collage, we don't know when we're starting out if an image is a shadow card, if it's archetypal energy, if it's personal, and you may not know for months. So don't get caught up in thinking, oh my gosh, I have to figure this out right now. Instead, I want to encourage you to really consider letting your art sit, marinate, steep for a while, and you can always come back to it. You might find another image that says, oh, I need to be part of that card and that story. So these also never have to be complete on the journey. Oops, I'm running into the edge of the card there. Okay, we're going to just do that. I love, again, just letting it. Me too. I work with circles. In fact, I'm painting a large mandala design, a sacred circle as we call them design right now, and on a circle canvas, which is really fun. But I fell in love with this work many years ago. So I really love this woman, just sort of speaks of confidence. I've also been feeling so drawn in my own creative work lately to the fiery colors, red, orange, and yellow, which are also the colors of the lower three chakras, which are about rootedness, groundedness, about creativity, sexuality, and about power as well. And so I'm just attentive to, that aspect of me need some clearing or some healing? And it's interesting, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, maybe I'm not loving all that overflow quite so much, but we're going to let it sit here for a minute. There's something, again, about the look on her face similar to the girl that's just pulling me in. But I also need this crazy jumping cat on there. Again, something about like confident, expansive, energetic. It almost feels like it's emerging as how I want to be feeling. Actually, I feel really good today. I had just a brutal headache the last few days, and I went to the chiropractor yesterday, and this is the first day in like 5 days I haven't had a miserable headache. So I am feeling a lot like this kitty today. And I left the little bits of red on there intentionally. All right. So this is one I start to feel a little bit stuck with. And I'm like, am I going in the right direction? Are these the right images? Because they're kind of fall colors. It's interesting. They're sort of the opposite of these very bright, happy colors. So the chiropractor helped Lisa. Also, electrolytes helped a ton. He said I was dehydrated even though I was drinking a ton of water. Oh, I cut the kitty's nose off. Well, that's all right. Yeah, so something about almost like this character is witnessing the energy of the cat, but it's the wrong background, right? So there's something about this that feels good, but it didn't feel right on this more autumn feeling wreath here. So let's go back to our images and see what else we have. Look at this absolutely gorgeous painting. I love the magazine, Spirituality and Health magazine, and it always features amazing art. Plus, I read it always cover to cover, but I particularly loved this artist work. I can't remember what her name is right now, but love that image. Definitely going to go in my journal somewhere. What about a little bit still sitting with some of that fire energy? Well, that's kind of interesting. Then all of a sudden we have a whole different look and feel to the card. When we bring in this idea, there's a sense of being held, a sense of being the holder of the light, this sense of confident self-expression and movement through the world. So all I needed was to change that one background image, and this card came to life for me. I cut out so many hands last night. It was so interesting just watching my own process. I do go through a lot of glue sticks. This is another empty one. Doing intuitive collage. And people really love Uhu sticks. I've also found that Michael's craft sticks. Do I have? No, I think I have all Uhus over here. But Michael's makes one that is easily accessible and works great. I do like that, usually a really big chunky glue stick. Interesting, Barbara, that you cut out hands all the time. So what do you think that has to say to you that you cut out hands all the time? I think about hands all the time, right? About, how much I use my hands, rely on my hands, how much I value and want to take care of my hands. Our hands are healing when we think about touch and hugs and intimacy, but they're also the instrument of my art making. I think that's why I had to kind of art my way through this book. It felt much better than just sitting and typing these preliminary ideas out. But now I do need to sit down and start typing. All right, so all of a sudden there's a whole new energy shifting here. I'm going to go ahead and trim this. I don't always trim them. Yes, Love, love, love. Mom's hands, grandmother's hands, Brad's grandmother, Evelyn, I think they called her Eva. Um, she had enormous, like these huge, such strong hands. Such strong hands. Now, what happens, what story emerges when I put these side by side? We start to see parts of self. I have some goosebumps about these images. So, again, this is I am one who is confident in my role as a leader. I have the energy that I need to light the way for others. So, a whole story starts to emerge. That is funny, Lisa. I love it. Um, yes, I had to art my way through the book, and I've known it for a couple of years, Lisa, and I resisted until I think I was waiting for more clarity. And once I've had 10 different outlines, but once I drew the outline as a journey map, as an adventure map, and a heroine's journey, then it all came together, and I've been going with it ever since. The first time you noticed was the director of nursing school program. I believe it has to do with caring hands and helping others. Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So, loving the contrast and the similarity between these two. A lot of energy, a lot of movement in both of these cards. All right, I'm going to do one more today. And then just a quick reminder, I won't be here tomorrow. I'm participating in a women's business summit tomorrow. So I will be back on Monday with our Make Mondays Sacred. Thank you. Yes, I love even in the mornings before I journal or, do my version of my morning art activation, which is always part art, part writing. Some mornings I go straight to words, and some mornings the words aren't there and I have to go to color, to art making. And then the words come, and it's been a beautiful practice. So my email to my community today talks about, my first introduction to the artist way was pretty soon after my son was born. I don't even remember how I met the woman who was facilitating this group. And she was offering a 12-week class, and I had a little one, right? So I had to get Brad to be willing to, which of course he was, entertain Connor and take care of Connor while I went to these classes. And then in the mornings, trying to carve out that 30 minutes to write as a new mom was tricky. Again, Brad had to wrangle Connor to not want to always come in the door of the room that I was writing in. I'd set up a little writing desk for myself in our guest room. All right, something about this little seagull here. And over the years, parts of that practice have remained, right? Parts of that practice have remained. Not the whole practice, but parts of the practice. Okay, feeling like, so this is going to be a shadow card. So there's definitely something we've got the orange fox, but then this very dreamy, shadowy gray fox showing some wonderful contrast here. I love foxes. And I found myself not loving morning pages for me personally, nothing against them. It's an absolutely genius thing, and it was so useful for me. I've gone through the process, a few different times in my life formally, with the book. And but it helped me create habits that nurtured me. But what I found was it became a lot of complaining, right? Or a lot of just, nothing. And that for me, what was valuable about the writing process, another beautiful painting by that same woman. I love that. As above, so below, right? We've got this ship and the constellations above and this gorgeous imagery down below. Maybe some of these clouds. And when I gave my permission to change the practice and make the practice my own, then it really stuck. Then I couldn't stop. Then if I don't do it in the mornings, I feel grumpy. I don't always write 3 pages. Sometimes I scribble. Today I played with watercolor and did some journaling. All right, something about clouds and shadow. This is something about, meeting the shadow side of myself. A friend of mine is getting certified in an assessment called StrengthsFinder, which is one of my favorites. And it would be no surprise to anyone that 2 of my top 5 are input and learner. I love information, and sometimes I feel the weight of the books, and that there's too much input, not enough output. And so that morning art process for me is so much about output, letting go of needing to learn something new or be inspired by someone else. This is a different card here that's emerging than this one with the books. So the books are feeling like some really fascinating, shadowy something. Because one of my favorite ways of procrastinating on the projects that I say are important, like the book, are, I don't know enough, I need to go do more research, is a thing that can keep me stuck. And I just noticed as I was so drawn to this image last night, and again, it is all about orange, so much orange. And so interesting as I'm looking at this, her eye is covered. You can't see her eye. It's almost as if she's moving forward blindly. So there's a story emerging there that I don't know what the whole story is. And this beautiful card is growing. So stories emerging. So sometimes we start to put images together and we go, they're not quite right, or it's not the quite right background. So again, I have to just trust my own journey here because it's no one else's journey. I'm not judging how these look. I'm not thinking about composition or color. I'm simply connecting to the images themselves and the story that is emerging in these images. And I love to just glue them on and then cut them after. Like, don't get caught up in trying to get them perfect. Let's see. Do I want to... Nope. She's telling me that she needs to be flush with the circle. So again, these are just 3 aspects of my relationship to myself, and I can create probably an infinite number of cards that represent my relationship to myself. I can also create cards that are a little bit more intentional, that reflect a specific aspect of myself, either that I want to celebrate or that I want to shift. So the cards can become inspiring companions and guides. And the more that we dialogue with the cards, the more that we are going to experience and learn from them. The other thing is, as you look at these cards, what you notice is there are no words on these cards. And that is with intention. So I feel the same way about vision boards. This is also an aspect I kept from, my soul collage training, is that I don't want there to be any limiters on here. I don't want there to be any labels. I don't want the story to feel contained, right? I want the story to unfold and emerge. And so this is a very interesting story. And when I put them all together, right? Like this one, I'm wanting to hide that one, right? I want to be in this energy, not this heavy, weighty, gotta have all this stuff going on in my brain. This feels very shadowy and heavy to me, even though the colors are bright. But this feels like I want to inhabit these spaces and these energies. So again, we get to play with them, and it's when we start to really put them together. So if I only put these two together, how fascinating a new story emerges, right? Like this is where she's been, and this is where she is now. So, lost in the library for most of her life, but now very visible, energized, and being a light for others rather than hiding her light. So many stories can come out of these really simple exercises. And to answer your question, do I come with an intention before you collage? So my intention was today to explore my relationship with myself. And I shared at the very beginning this idea of there's different aspects of my relationship with myself. And so sometimes I have an intention, sometimes I have no intention, and I sit down with a pile of images and some blank cards, and I create and let the story unfold. So you can do it either way, depending on how you're feeling or what do you need, right? If you're just looking for some fun, intuitive play and some surprise, don't have an intention. I highly recommend creating that way. But today I was very intentional with where I was going with these designs. So no live call tomorrow. Monday we'll do our Make Monday Mornings Sacred. And next Tuesday and Thursday, I will finish up with intuitive collage and relationships with others and relationship with the universe. And then I will be gone the last week of April on vacation, and we'll see where we go when we get back. So 2 more calls, and then I'm taking a week off to go to Florida for our 28th wedding anniversary, which I'm really excited about. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you, as always, for joining me live. Thank you for those of you that are catching the replay. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. And I will see you guys all on Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.